Please welcome to our Christmas special. Merry Christmas, everyone. This episode's dropping on Christmas, so we're going to be a little bit festive. We should have wore a Santa hat or something. We're welcoming Chad Wiseman, the current Guelph Storm assistant coach, and he played in a lot of places pro hockey, so we're pretty pumped for this one. Should be a good one. How's it going, Chad?
Good. Thanks for having me there, Matt. Nathan, appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on. And I guess just to bang off the first question, we have tons of questions here for you, like throughout all your hockey career. But just to kick it off, I mean, all of our other athletes and stuff, we tell them like, how are you dealing with COVID? So as you like for a coach, how is that kind of like mentally? Is it hard, challenging? Like run us through what's going on.
Sure. I mean, I think everyone has their own challenges, around the world and within our community as well. But, for me personally, I'm pretty fortunate. I have a wife, two children, Mason, who's 8, Kai, who's 14, house full of pets to keep us busy. We just moved, so we had a large property. We're rebuilding now, but for the first initial part of COVID, we were fortunate where we had a large property. We could get out and be active, run around the lake, walk around the lake, things like that. Obviously, this takes its toll on people in different ways. So having a family and some pets, to be honest with you, has helped the transition here. And obviously, things have gotten a little bit worse where we're slowly going back to work. In the office most days, preparing for the season, which got pushed back twice now in the OHL.
Right.
So obviously it's a bit frustrating from that standpoint, but at the end of the day, it's the health and safety of all the athletes and the staff is really, really important. So for me, staying active, I try to work out as much as I can, as often as I can for my own mental well-being. Obviously I'm fortunate to spend a lot of time with my children, so they keep me nice and busy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So what do you got? Can you give us a little bit inside scoop? As you said, you were in the OHL meeting on Tuesday. Are they not even putting a date on it anymore? Or are they just saying it's postponed right now?
Yeah, the press release that came out yesterday, I believe, it didn't have a date on it. That's public knowledge. It was just saying that we're pushed back again, and I think they're just reluctant to put a date on it when there's so much uncertainty.
Are you thinking that it's not going to be till next September? They're just going to skip the season, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I would be speculating. I'm optimistic in the sense that we get through the Christmas holidays here in the new year. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. There's vaccines coming out. When they're going to be accessible, obviously, we don't know exactly, but I'd like to believe there's some kind of hockey for everybody, not just the OHL, whether it's March, April, May. I'm real optimistic, but it's just me being hopeful.
So like for you, is it just like skates or stuff like that? Like I know talking to Matt, like they've been doing inter squads and stuff like that with the team. Is that kind of like what you're running right now?
Sure, so it's there's a lot of local players, a lot of local Guelph kids, OHL players. We do have some younger players, some pro guys, and then obviously depending on what zone we're in or what color zone has affected the amount of players on the ice, and then how we're allowed to be in what kind of contact we're allowed to be in on the ice. So when we started with 10 total people, which would be 9 players or usually 8 players, a goalie, and myself, it's strictly based around skill development so we can keep our distance and be safe on the ice. And then once things kind of let up a bit, small areas and scrimmages were allowed. Our numbers went up to 24, so we could run a more of a regular style practice, which was a nice change for the players because I think we did about 10 weeks of straight skill development, and people need variety, and players at any level get a little bored, so players want to compete. And now we're back to 10 again. Well, we were back to 10 there for a few weeks, and now there's nothing. So it's unfortunate, but from a global standpoint, I hope people understand that. Running around, and I'll use hockey as an example because it's my life, but people so anxious to get on the ice and maybe go to the wrong areas and travel and do things unsanctioned is probably one of many reasons we're in a worse spot now, but I think people just need to be patient, and hockey will be back again at some point.
Yeah, that's the main thing, and just kind of want to put my 2 cents in there, like relating like to my life. Like I've been really wanting to go to like the ski slopes, right, snowboard, and that's even going to be closed, and it's like an outdoor thing. So I feel like the main thing is just people have to be patient and understand like we'll have to take a couple weeks just to, narrow down on things so we can get back to at least that, 10-player practice or whatever, right? So,
Absolutely. There's a lot of people affected by this. A lot of athletes at different levels, whether it's players getting drafted to the OHL, players in their overage year, junior players maybe that were going to come to the OHL that are looking to get scholarships. So it's not just one age group. It is from the top all the way down to the bottom. It's unfortunate, but we got to be patient. We've got to wait this thing out. And again, there's some light at the end of the tunnel here where, I think we can all agree there's a good chance we're all going to be back on the ice in a handful of months, and things will be as close to normal as it's been in a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and just your skates are great too. Just wanted to throw that out before we get into the career. You guys, your skates are
Thanks,
man. Skates are very fun, which I like. There's not many. I don't want to sound like a player who doesn't like to work hard, but there's a lot of drills I don't like doing. Or there's a lot of coaches that will run these drills, and I'll be like, really? But rarely happens with you. And we got Pevs there too, which we're gonna get on. And we've been playing this for a while. Our goal podcast to make happen in the next 5 or 6 months is we're going to get Peverly on with Greg Campbell.
Nice.
And that's our podcast. So Greg Campbell is that's his name, right? Gregory Campbell.
Yeah.
He was me and Nate's leadership's brother, teacher's brother.
Nice. I played with Soupy in the OHL. He would be a couple of years younger than me, I think.
Okay.
So we played in Plymouth together, lost in the finals to Ottawa. My last year in the OHL was 2000. So there was some redemption there when we beat Ottawa in the finals there as a coach. So it would have been heartbreaking to lose twice my 2 finals in the OHL to Ottawa, but we were fortunate enough to pull it out.
That's awesome.
Well, there we go. You know both of them for us. So we'll jump right into the career now, and we got a lot of questions, so we won't ask you everything in this because we'd be here for hours. But just starting in, like you're in quite a hockey family, I'd assume. You own Elite Prospects, and you had your 3 brothers and your dad on the page, which not many people have. So I believe your one brother played in Canisius, your dad played in the Q. Is that right?
Yeah, American Hockey League, Quebec League, and Major Junior, the IHL. Yeah, he played some pro hockey, quite a bit of pro hockey. I have 4 brothers actually, so one stopped at the junior A level for the Cougars. No, actually, maybe he didn't even play for the Cougars. He might have stopped at minor or midget, back what was called midget then, so U18. But yeah, no, we come from a hockey family, a long line of athletes. My mom was actually a professional figure skater.
Oh, cool.
So she taught me how to skate, and that was my skating background. My oldest brother went to Lake Forest in Chicago. And then my youngest brother, Tyler, went to Canisius. He played some pro hockey in Germany for 3 or 4 years. He coached with me actually in the Women's National League. He does a lot of skill work here in Guelph as well. So still very much involved in hockey. And then my one brother, Jared, played some semi-pro. Played for the Cougars and junior level. And then my one brother, Zach, he's actually a prison guard there in Toronto. So because of COVID, I actually haven't seen him in over 10 months. So anybody in my family, actually, we've been doing our part in that sense. It's been tough, but some Zooms and lots of phone calls for the kids. But long line of hockey players in the family. It was a competitive household growing up for sure.
Yeah, I bet. Athletic family for sure. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. So you jump into the O now. We'll get into we'll start going through the career. And you jump into the O and you play on Mississauga Ice Dogs. Was that when Don Cherry was around? And what was that like going into, that's not even an organization. Well, they moved to Niagara, but so what was that whole atmosphere like? And was that when Don Cherry was involved?
Yeah, so Don was the owner at the time. We went through a handful of coaches the first few years. It was a struggle. I was there the inaugural season in 97, I believe. Might have been 96, 97, but it was a struggle. I think we won 4 games all year. Obviously, just being a new team and coming to the league with the expansion draft, it was probably a little different back then than it would be now. It was a learning curve for sure. I always wanted to play in the OHL, so when I was drafted, I knew I was going to play, and it was relatively close to home. So I'm sure my parents were happy at the time when they could see all the games, even though there wasn't too many that were exciting for the first few years. But At the end of the day, they treated us probably just as good or better than any other team in the league. The amenities that we had in the dressing room, it was a Hershey Center back then. Whether it was sticks, tape, equipment, there was never any issue. There was never a lack of what we would have needed to succeed at the time. Just maybe a lack of the players, really, is what it came down to. So it was at the end of the day, it made me who I am today. It was part of growing and learning. Definitely not accepting losing, but how to figure out how to make things better. But I was fortunate enough there when the time came, they were willing to move me to a team that had a chance to win, which would have been Plymouth a few years later, and had an opportunity to win there. Again, that was a fantastic franchise, great team. We lost to Ottawa, like I said before, in the finals. Pete DeBoer was a coach, Steve Spott, still to this day, probably one of the most influential coaches in my career, somebody who helped me turn pro quicker than I probably should have. So, I was pretty fortunate. I had some really good coaches even in Mississauga too. So it was Rick Vive was there and some others that were unfortunately didn't stay too long, but again, influential people in your life for sure.
So one thing, I'm a big Sens fan. I have been since I was like 6 years old. I think my brother doesn't like the Leafs and he wanted a team. So when he was young, he picked the Sens and he convinced me to like the Sens too when I was young. So my favorite player was Jason Spezza for a long time, and you played with a young Jason Spezza.
Sure.
Oh, how amazing was he? They used to say, well, I think Spit Chickles the other day said that Jason Spezza was unreal. He's one of the 6 players, I think, to play on the World Juniors at 16.
Yeah.
So what was the young Jason Spezza like?
Probably the exact same as he is now. Just probably a little bit more mature, and he's probably got. I haven't spoken to him in years. We ran into each other at a golf tournament a few years ago. Just a big goofy smile, always happy. The way he is at the rink is the way he is away from the rink. If you run into him 5 years later, nothing's changed. Just a good overall human being. I still have a stick in my basement sign saying to my best buddy, Chad Wiseman. So, our relationship was pretty strong. We were line mates for years. McGrattan ended up being one of our line mates who I had played with before the OHL and then a lot of pro games against. So, I actually think Rick Vive wrote a book and made a comment in his book about our line. If we didn't score, then there was no chance of ever winning a game. So it was we were a little bit top heavy on that front line. But no, Jason's a great guy, stand up guy. Never anything bad to say about him. Again, obviously a fantastic career. I've got an opportunity to follow him like yourself. So we stay in touch every once in a while, and I'll see him in some charity golf tournaments. But if I see him, I'll get you something signed if you want, Daniels.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I love it. My brother would like that a lot more than me, though. He's a lot more into it than I am. Nate, awesome. You want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the next question is just kind of like going down your elite prospects here. So you got drafted to San Jose, and then you played like your first year in Cleveland as well. So what was hockey like there? Like kind of going to Cleveland and playing in the AHL. Like just kind of tell us your experience and like putting points up easy there. So
from Spit and Chicklets, it seemed pretty bad. Like no one knew there was hockey in Cleveland at the time.
No, yeah, it was. So they were Kentucky Thoroughbreds the year before. They were originally in the IHL. So that I missed that year, so they moved to Cleveland. So my first year pro hockey, 2000, 2001. So I left the OHL as a 19-year-old. I didn't come back as an overage. Signed with San Jose, and then went to the American League, which is Cleveland, which we played in. I think it was called the Gun Center at the time. I don't know what it's called anymore, to be honest with you. And it was tough because Cleveland was probably not a hockey town. Ohio in general probably wasn't a hockey state. So it was probably tough sledding there from a fan standpoint. They did a good job of marketing. We did have weekend games where we'd have a decent amount, whether it was 4,000 or 5,000 people, but you're talking about a 20,000 seat arena. So it never felt full. Again, the amenities were fantastic. The dressing room, everything we needed from San Jose was awesome. I was pretty fortunate where we had a really older group. Mike Craig, who was an ex-Leaf, Joel Perpick, big 6'7" center who was a fantastic guy. Steve Bancroft, who was a Leafs first-round draft pick, I believe. I actually ran into Steve last year. Like these guys were mentors to me, but Ryan Kraft, who might be somebody you don't know, but he did play games in the NHL for San Jose. These were fantastic people that kind of paved the way for me. Accepted. I was one of only a few rookies or younger guys on the team, so accepted, and where I was playing cards with these guys in the back of the bus as a 19-year-old, and they made it a comfortable, I guess you call it like a safe environment for myself, where I felt included, which I'd like to believe they did for the others as well. You try to think back, but awesome guys. So the experience was good. The team was we did okay for a few years. I don't think we made the playoffs, but it's an interesting league because it's a developmental league for the NHL, and it's a feeder. So you could be in first place by Christmas, and the NHL loses some guys, and they take your top players, your older guys, or whoever it might be, and you could go on a bit of a losing skid there. So kind of happened to us a little bit. I remember that year with goaltending, Vesatoskala was there. We lost him for a while. So, but the overall experience in Cleveland was great. I actually liked Cleveland. There was lots to do. Stay busy. We had free tickets to the Cavs games back then, so on the floor. But awesome. that was before LeBron James. So when LeBron James came in, they weren't free anymore. So
yeah,
Cleveland's where our buddy Zach Dalpe's now the cap. It seems like I don't want to say it's better. You made it seem like it's pretty good, but when they had that playoff run, I think the year before Dalpe got there, a couple of years ago, they were selling out the rink every game.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I'm out of touch. I haven't been there in, it's been 20 years. So
yeah.
Well, that's awesome that they've grown the sport in that area. So good for them.
Yeah, even watching Columbus and stuff, right? Columbus has grown tremendously.
Sure. Yeah, that was my first thought too. Is like Zach Dalpe, right? And like Columbus, like the whole kind of Cleveland area. I guess it's definitely still like developing in hockey. I feel like it's growing. Like it's probably more of a football say, anyways. But I feel like hockey for sure is getting a little bit better down there too. So
yeah, I'm sure hockey it grows around the world, daily. So there's a lot of fantastic programs out there that promote the sport in different areas of our country in the U.S. So. And around the world, and especially women's hockey as well, right? It's rapidly growing, might be the quickest, the fastest growing sport. So it's really great to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So you jump into pro hockey, and you said maybe even you think you went too early, possibly looking back. But you put up 50 points in your first 3 seasons. Like, how was the adjustment that easy, or was it a pretty hard adjustment? Like 50 points in your first 3 seasons is quite good.
Well, I don't think I went in too early. I mean, I could have cut back then. There was no salary cap. I could have come back to OHL as an overage back to Plymouth, probably, and signed as a free agent somewhere. But at the time, the opportunity with San Jose was good, so I decided to jump on it. No, it's not easy. It's a grind, and I think that the time I spent, the 3-4 months I spent in Plymouth, prepared me. To be successful, I guess, at the next level, because your habits at the junior level, I think the kids now have more resources, more people helping, so the kids are more aware of what to expect in the future, where back then there wasn't as much help, the resources weren't there were no skills coaches, the video was limited, so I think the coaching staff prepared me best, Spotter and Pete DeBoer, to jump into pro hockey. And I think that's why my transition was pretty successful early. And I think I had a bit of a lull there in my second or third year. But, I give them a lot of credit for preparing me for that. But no, it's not easy. You move away from home at 19 or 20. Yes, you've been with the billet for 3 years, but you didn't really cook on your own. You didn't pay your own bills. You didn't have a rent to pay. Just stuff in your life as you become an adult that you've never experienced. Right? I remember in Cleveland, I lived in my own apartment and had a rent, and I had to pay my bills. And I had one futon and one bed and one TV, and that was it in a 1-bedroom apartment. Right? And it's sink or swim. Go to the grocery store and buy your groceries and learn to eat. And when do I go to the rink? At what time do I go to the rink? When do I go to bed? How do I pregame nap? When do I eat before games?
Yeah.
So these are all things that you experience at a level in the OHL, but you're always having support, and then you get to the pro hockey and you're on your own. So you grow up in a hurry, that's for sure. And those experiences probably matured me a little faster than anything else.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Like you said, with growing up on your own with no help for sure. That's probably a scary thing, right? When you're a whole different kind of country, right? And at least you probably had. Did you have like any good teammates or like any good like mentors that kind of helped you through that in Cleveland at all?
Oh yeah, well that's what I said before. Like just touching on it again, like Mike Craig and Steve Bancroft and Joel Perpick, Ryan Kraft. There was also some younger guys there that were college guys, so they're a little older than me. Jesse Fibiger, Rob Davison. These are guys. These are guys that we all became pretty close friends. I still stay in touch with some of these guys today. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just a funny story. I remember this is 2001. I remember the season was over. I had a smaller Jeep, and my parents drove down and gave me their minivan to pack all my stuff in because I could fit it in their truck or their van. And a week before, so I packed my stuff up. The season was over, and I got a flat tire. I don't know, 20 minutes into my ride home, and it's not far away. I mean, Cleveland's like 3.5, 4 hours maybe. And but back then we didn't have cell phones, so I got a flat on the road. I'm just turned 20. Running up a hill to try to find a payphone to call my dad, be like, hey. And that's when my dad's just like, you know what, I can't help you. Go back to your truck, and the spare's in the back, and read the manual and figure it out. So again, another experience that you won't forget. But so I recommend that teach your kids how to change a tire when they're real young.
Yeah, for sure. That's
There's
crazy.
no cell phones. There's no YouTube or anything too.
Oh no, I could you figure it on your own. You have to learn how to read, or I hope you learn how to read before. So no, it's an interesting experience, but it's just funny because it's not that long ago, and I didn't get a cell phone until my third year of pro hockey. So I had a house phone.
Oh, okay. How long does it take you
To what?
to put the tire back on?
I was fortunate. So I actually emptied because the spare tire was inside the van on the bottom. So I had like a futon, a mattress. I'm on the highway. I think it's the 90 there, and I'm pulling everything off onto the side of the highway. Got the tire out, and I've got everything set up, ready to go. And just a truck just pulled up, I don't know what, like a service truck that goes up and down the highway. And the guy was there, and he helped me out. He put it on together. So it took me longer to get everything out of the van and get everything back in the van than it did to actually put the tire on.
That's good, at least.
So we'll talk about now your first NHL call. This is one we'd like to ask everyone who's played in the NHL, and because it's so special, even just to have one game in there. And so, where were you? How'd you get the news? And I'm sure you still remember it. So, how'd you get the news, and how did that all play out? Your first call up.
That was Roy Sommer would have been the one that called me. He was the head coach in Cleveland at the time. That was my second. No, that was my second year. No, sorry. No, sorry, I didn't get called up in from Hartford. Would have been to New York, right? Nope. You might want to edit. Sorry, you might want to edit this. No, I did play. Sorry, I did play 4 games with San Jose. So it was Roy Sommer that called me. I can't, to be honest with you, I don't remember where I was. I just remember the date because I wore number 3 my whole entire life, and this sounds kind of corny, but I wore number 3 until junior, and I still would have worn number 3, but somehow I thought it'd be uncool to play in the OHL and wear number 3 as a forward. Probably one of my only regrets. I should have kept number 3. But I got called up. My first time was March 3rd, 2003 was my first call up to the NHL. So I remember the date specifically. I flew into to Edmonton at the time and played my first game there. I don't know how many, can you tell me minutes I played? It was maybe 7 or 8. I think I took a minor and I was -1, but I played with Vinny Domfus that day. Was one of my line mates, and it's an experience for sure. I'll never forget.
So we'll jump into to your goal when you're playing on New York. Run us through that. Where was that? What goalie was it on?
Yeah, so I was with the Rangers at the time in Madison Square Gardens. My parents were there, but they didn't see the goal. It was against New Jersey. It's kind of funny because I ended up spending 4 years with their association at the end of my career. I was playing with Lindros and Matthew Barnaby were my line mates at the time. Start the third period, I think we were down. They were up 2-1, or no, sorry, we were tied 2-2, and puck I think Barnaby will say he passed it over, but I think he tried to make an extra move, lost it, and it kind of ended up on my stick, just to the left of the hash mark, so the right of the goalie, and I just had a quick release, and Broder was the goalie at the time, and it beat him over the glove. So I get some laughs sometimes with some friends, and I always make say Marty's got a slow glove, but I think we know that's probably not true. Parents were there, and in the washroom at the time. It was the first shift of the third period, so the parents heard a roar, came out, and I remember my dad telling me like we knew it was you. It was just one of those feelings. Sure enough, they announced it, and they missed it. But I've actually never, funny enough, I've never actually seen the goal. I mean, if that happened now, I could watch it on YouTube or social media or wherever. But I've actually never seen my goal ever.
Oh, really?
That's kind of sad.
I remember it in my mind, but I don't have a video of it. I've always thought about calling them, and I don't know if they can send VHS tapes through mail or whatnot. I don't know if I could play it. So, I've never seen it on TV.
Yeah, you gotta get that tape. You can show your kids and stuff too. Then.
yeah.
That's a pretty cool. Marty Brodeur is a pretty cool goal to get your first goal on for sure.
Yeah, were you ever like starstruck, like when you get called up? Like were you like ever intimidated, or like run us through your mindset of like your first kind of game? Was it pretty intense, or?
No, not so much the games. I think when you get into a game situation, you settle in and you're just playing hockey, and everything else kind of fades away. That nervousness you might have the first shift or through warm up will go as you start competing. For me, it was probably more training camps. As a younger athlete showing up, and Owen Nolan, or again Vinny Domfus, or Mark Messier, and these guys that you just get to camp. So you get whether it's intimidated or you take a step back to watch, and it's probably the worst thing you can do when you need to go in there with that attitude, like I don't care who you are or what you've done. But those are the guys that probably stand out a little bit earlier or make it a little earlier. So I wish there was times I went into camp with a little bit more of that attitude than sit back and I guess probably in awe would be the right terminology, where you're on the ice. I went signed with Washington, and you're playing with Ovechkin, and you get glued to watching them, and you're not really paying attention to anything else or focusing on the things that matter to you.
Yeah.
So it's a tough balance, because you want to enjoy the moment, you want to learn all the time, but you also want to compete and you want to show well. So, but yeah, absolutely, you're not human if you're not in awe when you're out there with some of those special players.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, what about MSG? Did you have a chance to play at MSG?
Yeah, I played. That was my first goal was there. So.
Oh, I thought it was in New Jersey. I bet.
No, it was in Madison Square Gardens. It was against New Jersey. It's a pretty special place, and I've been back to it since, and I still have some good relationships there. So I was there a few years ago, and after the renovation, so they've done a fantastic job. But just what a city in general, right? That you're a young man, and the city in general might be more overwhelming than being on the ice with some of the guys when you're walking around and you're 21, and you come from a smaller town where you don't need to be worried, or people aren't bumping into you on the streets or subways and stuff like that. So it's a great experience. It's overwhelming for sure, but the energy and the history in that building is unreal. I suggest anybody has an opportunity to go there and just watch a game in their lifetime. For me, it's the same in Chicago. Like, to go watch the Cubs play. You don't even have to be a baseball fan. There's an energy there. There's an excitement. People are fantastic. They're true sports fans. It's a great place to watch a sports event.
Yeah, I bet, for sure.
Now, we're skipping over a lot here, but we can't keep you here forever. So you ended up going over to Germany in the 2007-8 season. And why was that? Why did you decide to go out to Europe? And then you ended up coming back too. So what was your experience like in Germany? And then what was the decision like to go over there for a year?
I think at that time I had played 6 years in the American League, only played 10 or 11 games in the NHL. I think you get a little bit of frustration where, the timing's not working, or I was unfortunate with injuries. I ended up having, by the time my career was over, I had 12 surgeries, 10 of them on my groins, one on my hip, and then a facial reconstruction, which didn't affect my hockey really. But at the time, I think the 6 years in the American League was a grind. I was a bit stalemated, and had an opportunity to go over. I had an opportunity to go to Germany in the lockout year, which if I had one regret, that probably would have been it. because I could have gone over, not wasted a year of eligibility in the American League where you become like basically an overage player, right? Or same idea as the OHL. So I went over, and my issue, personal or internal issue was I had lost that drive to when I was there in Germany to play in the NHL. I didn't lose the drive to play in the NHL. I wanted to play in the NHL, but I couldn't play in the NHL. So
Yeah.
I lost that drive where I was already at the highest level in Germany, and it just didn't sit well with me. So financially, it was fantastic being over there. I probably could have stayed for a long time and reaped a little bit more of the rewards and coming back to the American League. But for me, I needed that push to something to strive for, and the NHL was always it. So I had come back and signed with New Jersey at that year, and then that's really when I had 2 groin surgeries before, but that's when things went south there with New Jersey, and they were, I mean, you want to talk about a first-class organization with Lou Lamoriello there, like they were the best. I was there, spent 4 years there. I always joke around that my medical bills were probably more than my salary because I had about 6 surgeries with them and hip surgeries, and he's the kind of guy who just kept bringing me back because he liked me as a person. He knew that I was a good role model for his younger guys. I could help with development and be a leader. So I've got the utmost respect for the organization, for Lou himself. It kept me probably in the game a little bit longer, or in the American League a little longer than I should have, playing 30, 40 games a year because of my injuries. So pretty grateful for that, but nothing but good things to say about that man for sure.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
We don't mean to put you on the spot, but we would like to ask you here. So you played for 6 different AHL teams, and we want to know, what was your favorite team to play for? Obviously, the city's a big factor. Obviously, like, we're big Spit and Chicklets guys, and they talk about how big of a difference being somewhere hot makes, or being in a nice city, especially when you're in the AHL.
Yeah, you said a lot of things go into answering that question. It's not even just the city; it's the NHL team that's associated with that team, how you're treated. So it's really tough because, I mean, pretty first-class organizations I was with, so I was treated really well from every association: San Jose, New York, New Jersey, obviously, and then Washington. I was only there for a year, but if I just had to pick an American League city to play in, I mean, Hershey is one of the best American Hockey League cities. At the time, again, I haven't followed it for years, but at the time we lost in the finals the year I was there. The rink was packed. It's 9,000-10,000 every single night. It's a small town. The restaurants take care of you. They've got good meal plans, like silly things like that. The facility in Hershey is fantastic. The chocolate's obviously great. So from an American Hockey League standpoint, like that was as close to an NHL feeling as you could get on a nightly basis. Like going into that rink, playing against Hershey, I remember it's not easy because of the atmosphere. So if I had to pick one, it would be Hershey for sure. But I mean, I really liked Hartford. I think there's a spot in my heart with Hartford, just because that was my first, with the Rangers, and I kind of went into a leadership role when I was traded there, and we had a great team, and Ryan McGill was our coach. Ryan was an influential coach on me. He made me better. Still coaches in NHL to this day. So I just really liked Hartford, and the fan base was typically good. There was times of the year when it wasn't as great, but because we had a winning team when I was there, it was always pretty strong.
That's awesome. So now I guess kind of just going into it, what was your decision moving into Sweden? Were you just kind of at a point where, like, I'm kind of done with, North American hockey, you want to try kind of new different type of hockey? So what was, like, your mindset kind of moving to Sweden?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that was at the end of my surgeries. That was by that time I had my 11 groin surgeries and hip surgery. I was on the verge of retiring. I always wanted to coach. That was my passion. It's been for a long time before I retired, and I probably could have spent more time when I was near the end of my career preparing for that. Like, that's advice I give young players that aspire to be coaches: is don't waste your time, because you have a lot of free time as a pro hockey player. So I could have prepared myself better. smart as you are or think you are, and how well you know the game and how long you played for, doesn't matter when you start coaching, because it's a different animal.
Right.
So at the time, nothing was opening up. I really, let's say, lost the passion, but with my injuries, the frustration. I was playing 30 games a year. It hurts to get out of bed. It hurts to walk. And unfortunately you have to pay the bills, and an opportunity came up and in the first division there. So it wasn't the top league, but it was a good experience. It was a short time away from my family, so it wasn't too bad. I think I was only ended up being there for about 4.5 months, and my wife and kids stayed home at the time, and I can say that it was Ostersund is the name of the city I was in, but it was a really cool little hockey town. But the experience was really, really good. The city was great. There was tons of support there. Everyone knew who you were. It was a really small town, a little bit more northern side of Sweden. Cold, very cold. The brand new rink, again, fans. There was not a lot of fans, but it was full at 2,000 fans a game. Organization treated you well. So it probably wasn't my dream to go there at the time and to play in that division. But it worked out. The timing worked out well from, I guess, needing a job, right? It's something to pay the bills. So I started using my time. If your next question is about Japan, it was kind of a similar situation where financial opportunity came up, which was great. But I wanted to coach, and I actually turned down a job at that time, which, everything works itself out or happens for a reason. But knowing what I know now, I probably would have taken that opportunity. So it was kind of, I spent that months in Sweden, that year in Japan, like building or preparing to coach, building the drills through Hockey Share, stuff like that, like just having a bit more of a resume, and just information better prepared for the time when interviews start coming. So I like both experiences. I mean, the time in Japan was really hard away from my family, just because the time change ended up being about 13 hours. I think they don't have daylight savings time. So 13 hours is I'm waking up and they're going to bed, and vice versa. So to connect with my family was difficult. So I really struggled there personally. Nothing against Japan and the city. It was fantastic, treated well. Food was fantastic. Some other reports there were great guys. The Japanese players were fantastic, super respectful and supportive. So, but just being away from the family was tough. And I knew that after that year that even if I didn't have a coaching job set up, that was it. I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah. So just kind of go with the flow kind of thing. As long as you're around hockey, you're happy, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something we talk about with all of our guests, I think as being a teenager who wants to play hockey and stuff for years to come, I think it's super cool to go play hockey out in Europe and experience living there while playing. I think that's cool to go for a couple of years and see what it's like. But one of the questions is, so you're in Asia, which is, I think you're the first guest. Now you see the first guest that's ever played in Asia.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think we've had anyone.
Not too many.
What was something that you didn't expect? Like, what was something on a daily basis or not on a daily basis about hockey and about just living there in general? Well, what are some little things that you didn't expect?
It's the culture, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a hockey standpoint, it was better than I expected. They play a fast-paced game. I don't know if the attention to detail wouldn't be there, the physicality wouldn't be there, but the game's fast. The skill levels was fairly good. I was pleasantly surprised. At that time in my career with all my surgeries, everything probably seemed really fast. So I didn't play the game at a high pace anymore. And their culture that they bring, it's pretty unique because they, we talk about culture, within a dressing room or within a team. Their culture is community based, or like it's like universal, or like where they're all the same. So that culture that they have outside of the sport is the same culture that comes to the rink, and it doesn't change. I find that pretty unique, that they're so disciplined as a country, and nobody really wavers from it, and they bring that same culture to the rink, right? So it's, I lived on the paper factory there. They owned the team, and we looked on to the paper factory behind every day. and it doesn't matter if it was -20 out in the middle of winter. Everyone before they go into their building lines up and they do calisthenics. They do a warm up. It's like you're part of this team. You work here. We do 15 minutes of a warm up. And I always tell everyone, like, could you imagine, in here in North America, and you work at Ford factory and you're going to tell your employees are going to line up for 15 minutes in the freezing cold and do a warm up? Like, it would never happen. So I always found that like just the discipline in their culture, and it was bought into or believed by every single, I would say every single person. I'm sure there's people that don't, but for the majority, like to get a country to buy into that discipline, I always find really intriguing. And how do you do that? And then can, like, for me as a coach, how do I take that and try to like put it into a small group of people, which should be easy. Like, it should be easy to create a culture or an environment of belief within a hockey room, because they can do it with a country, right? So it's kind of where my mind goes, but I always found that really, really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting, especially as a coach's thing. You'd probably learn so much from that experience, right? Like, going from there, I'm sure that's like pretty beneficial.
Yeah, no, it was a good experience. It was a very disciplined, respectful culture, and I other than missing my family, the experience was great.
Yeah.
Now wrapping up, we'll get into your coaching. Obviously, you said you always wanted to be a coach, and so what ended up leading you to women's hockey? Correct, New York Riverettes. What ended up leading you to women's hockey?
Yeah, the New York Riveters, and we changed over to Metropolitan Riveters, which ended up being in New Jersey. It was just an opportunity that came up, kind of out of nowhere. I spoke to, at my time, my agent was Mark Guy at Newport Sports, who just left Newport, but if anyone needs a truck, he owns a GMC in Georgetown now, so good contact to know. But the information I received from him and other people that are in the hockey community is coaching's coaching. It doesn't matter if they're youth hockey players or male hockey players or female. So the opportunity came up. I thought it was an interesting one, unique. So I jumped on it, and to be a head coach right away with a new franchise, a new league, it was one of those things like sink or swim, jump in. And I had a lot to learn. I still do have a lot to learn, but I think I gathered more information and learned more about myself in a shorter period of time because I was put in that situation, or I put myself in that situation. So I was fortunate to get the opportunity with the National Women's Hockey League, and that was Danny Ryland was at the time commissioner and owner-operator essentially of the league. Still have a pretty good relationship to this day. The league's obviously expanding, but at the time I was really fortunate with the New York Islanders. Eric Cairns was a Burlington boy. I'm from Burlington. My mom actually taught him how to skate. There was an opportunity for a second skills coach. They were trying to build a skills team with the Islanders. So I went and interviewed and became a skills coach at the same time in the American Hockey League for Bridgeport.
Oh, cool.
So I was actually coaching the Riveters. We practiced in the evenings, and then the American League team was in the morning. And the drive from New York at the time to Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, was only about 80 miles. I mean, you had to go through New York City, which was tough. So if your timing was right, and I left at 10 o'clock at night, I could get there in an hour and 20 or hour and 30. It wasn't that bad. So I was kind of doing double duty, which, again, from building a resume, learning, educating yourself, I was really fortunate to have that opportunity. So I spent 2 years with the Islanders in Bridgeport. The coaching staff there is unbelievable. Eric Borganicki, his assistant. Matt Karkner ended up being a guy I played with, was an assistant. Brett Thompson is their head coach. And there's a welcoming environment where, even though I hadn't really coached before, or I was coaching women's hockey as a first-year coach, I was in their office every day. They would bounce ideas off me. It's one thing I like about hockey is the egos are usually left at the door. If you're already in that room with those people, they respect you and they want your opinion. So I was fortunate enough to spend 3 years with the Women's League and 2 years with the Islanders. I actually I got a job with Guelph Minor as a technical director, so that's why I ended up doing double duty kind of with that, and then coaching the Women's League. So I was commuting back and forth for those 3 years to home, because my family stayed back in Guelph. And then I guess after that, I actually took a job with the Burlington Cougars as a head coach, and that's what I actually ended up never coaching them. I took the opportunity. We started some camps in the summer. We were building our team. It was a pretty exciting time. And then an opportunity in Guelph came up, and I was fortunate enough to interview for it with George Burnett's the GM head coach. And next thing you know, a week later, he's offering me a position as the assistant, and it all fit. It was unfortunate I didn't get to coach the Cougars. They were happy to see me go, in the sense that they hired somebody who was then promoted quickly. So there was no issues there. They were happy for me and wished me well. And an opportunity with Guelph came up, and I was living at home for the first time in my career. With my family and commuting 20 minutes down the road or 15 minutes down the road to the rink every day. So again, everything kind of works itself out. It works, happens for a reason, right? It sounds cliche, but I believe in it.
For sure.
And
I believe in that
things
too.
have been good since. So I love it here and don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. You finally found, I don't want to say finally, but you found a good spot now, or you hopefully relaxing, like you said. You guys are renovating and stuff now. Hopefully are able to stay put for a while, because you've been a lot of places over the years.
Home base, having a home base is nice. So
yeah, I bet.
We did want to mention that you were a big part. Harper mentioned you, and you were a big part getting Harps out for the Cougars and playing there. So we want to throw that out for our listeners, because Harper was a popular guest. But so now basically you're with the Storm. You had that magical run, obviously. That's a great run. And now you're going into your fourth year coaching.
Well, this would have been my third. We spent a lot of time at the rink, but we're not coaching anybody at the time. But so this will be my third year with the Storm. I was promoted to associate coach after my first year. Jake Grimes, who was the associate coach, took a head coaching job in the Quebec League with Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. So a good friend of mine, stay in touch daily almost. So I was fortunate enough to George promoted me to the associate coach, and I had that relationship with George where that. There's a mutual trust and respect, and I enjoy working there with him. And he's one of those guys that, again, the Eagles are left at the door, and if you have an idea, then say it. And you're not saying he's always going to take your idea, but he's going to listen to your idea. At the end of the day, we leave that office, and you support the decision the head coach ends up making. So very fortunate for the opportunity. But yeah, my third year, and hopefully we get some kind of hockey in the future in the new year. But if not, then we'll keep building, prepare for the draft, and try to get our team best prepared for next season. We've been doing lots with them. We do Monday Zooms now. It feels like it's been months. It has been months. We started off with a lot of team building with our mental performance coach, Ashwin Patel. So a lot of team building, a lot of exercises like that. Then when we had this season that was supposed to start in December, or was it November or December, the first one originally, we built our tech pack out. Now we start teaching the tech pack over Zoom, giving our players assignments, really, really productive stuff. I think it's going to go a long way just for having a team building standpoint. And then when it got pushed back again, and we kind of pulled back on the reins of the tech pack, because it kind of becomes irrelevant trying to teach systems and prepare guys for a season that might be 2 or 3 months away. They're not going to retain that information. So we kind of went back, took a step back, went back to the team building, which is fantastic. I believe, when our players do come to camp or the season starts, that our younger players are going to feel really, really welcome, because we've been on Zoom for probably 4 months now, 4 times a month, maybe even longer. And then a lot of our local young guys actually do skate here in Guelph with me. So I think, we talked earlier about, you asked me about when I went to NHL camp, or, are you in awe, where for any young player, it's tough. You go to camp, you're unsure, you dip your toe in the water, you kind of feel your way through it. Well, I think, and maybe this might be a way for a lot of teams, but I know for us, where our 3 or 4 young guys from the draft that have signed that are going to play, they're not going to have to experience that, because they've been around the guys for 6 months on the ice and on Zoom. So
right.
That might help or speed up their development.
For sure.
So I look forward to seeing how that kind of unravels when we do get on the ice, but hopefully it's soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I don't think you have anything else, Nate.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. Thanks for all your time. And
yeah, no problem, guys. Thank you for having me.
We wish you the best of luck moving forward.
All right. Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Mules. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Thanks so much for doing this, Chad. Really appreciate it.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Take care. See ya.